Hello everybody, hope you're keeping very well. Thanks for coming back in to look at another video. Now, following on from the one I did about a little vlog about first things you learn, and how maybe if you're looking to get into woodwork you might look at all those adverts for a cool plane and lovely luxurious shavings flowing off the timber, when really it's all going to be about learning skills. One of the first skills I learned was just cutting things off the length of the saw, you know. I was conscious as I thought about this, I thought I could bring home some proper sawing stools or sawing horses I use at work, and I was lucky enough to use them when I first started work because people had them. But I thought that may not be realistic, so I've got a fairly crude setup here, which is just some kitchen chairs. Now you might be tempted to think these should be kind of locked in there, but with a sawing stool you've just got kind of a narrow band there, and that gives you plenty enough room to either use your knee to clamp or your foot, however you feel most comfortable, and it won't matter, you know, whatever. The main thing with sawing accurately is feeling comfortable, and the reality is that if you're doing a bit at home, you're not going to be cutting in volume. And even say if I'm in a situation at work, I'll do low volume work with a handsaw. I'm not going to go and start up big machines to do small work. But if I've got lots and lots to do, then I might look to even hire some equipment, you know. But so just good degree of comfort, and then you can clamp down. If for any reason you don't feel comfortable, you can always look at clamping the wood. But I always feel that using my body gives me the best overall feel. I think once I start clamping things, I feel like it's a bit too remote. And then you can just do a few warm-up moves, you know, just feel the saw's going to be roughly at that kind of angle. See whether you like that more, whether you prefer coming down onto a knee. Again, your height's going to dictate that. My sawing stools are a little bit higher than these trestles, so I might do it by foot. We'll see what happens. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to bring you a little bit closer, and we'll look at a few things. So we don't have to worry about cutting off to anything which is a specific length. We want to leave ourselves sort of about 30 or 40 mil on the ends. Now this is a nonsense. You would never face side and face edge kind of stud work or waste material. For the sake of this, we'll add it, because it's a really good habit to get into, referencing your square on the right faces each time, and we'll come to discuss that in another video. So if my square is going to touch, I always want it to touch these surfaces. And if, like me, you're using rounded timber, it's being eased on the edges like stud material, it does make it a little bit more tricky. But just lining it up with a pencil, you can join all those lines. And that's one of the key reasons why those lines will join together, is using that face side and face edge mark. Now, it's always good to have a first aid kit to hand. And you're not going to cut your hands off or do too much damage with one of these, but they're sharp and you don't want to use too much force. So what we're going to do to start that cut is use our thumb on the side of the saw plate. Now it's really difficult. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, I need to look at this and reflections of the wood and all the rest of it. So I genuinely don't think you need to worry too much about that. It's not something I ever did. It was just a case of get comfortable, and eventually you just get a feel for where plumb is, and you just even follow lines. You don't even know where plumb is. It's like, well, I see the line, I'm just going to cut to the line. The main thing is starting. You want to use your kind of thumbnail, and you don't use the fleshy part of your thumb on that saw. So lift it up just a little bit higher. Think about it a bit like somebody who's playing snooker. Just that light movement. That just starts it off. And once that's started, you're pretty good. You know, it's not going to jump out and damage your work or hurt your hands. Then move your hand away, so if something does jump out, you're not likely to cut it. I did that when I was a kid. I got a little scar on my finger because I was forcing the tools. And that's just a case seen in books people take a square to judge their progress and hold it against the saw plate to see how they're doing. And that's fine. You can kind of do that, but I've never seen people do that I've worked with. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And just work your way through. The saw will do the work. You basically just got to move it backwards and forwards with a little bit of intent. It's, again, I want to be cautious showing this, but I can put the teeth there in my hand and just push down with my hand, and it's just enough that I can feel it pushing. There's no risk of it cutting my hand, but I can just feel the pressure. You can just see it's leaving that slightly white mark. And I'm holding the saw like that. And as we get to the end, I'm going to slow down and cut it off, and you can see we've got breakout underneath. That's fine. And if I hold it up, hopefully you can see from there anyway, that a little bit off there, but my pencil lines are pretty good. You know, so it's just a case of keep practicing that. And then the more you practice, the more you can think to yourself, well, actually, I just need fewer lines. You know I said about referencing, but I'm not going to do that. Here's just an angle. Again, I'm just positioning my body. Again, kind of, I know how far I need to twist it over. And don't worry, I'm going to show a few different angles in a minute. There we go. Again, you can kind of see there, pencil lines, still just in, pencil lines, still just in, bit of breakout underneath, but we're doing rough cut work, so that's fine. Again, it's a good skill, it's inbuilt. You imagine if you had to fire up machinery extraction, whether you're doing a bit of work outside, and you can just rely on that, it's a lot quicker. So I'll put the camera in a few different situations now where you can just watch body movements, because I think sometimes we could all talk too much, and sometimes just by looking, you can maybe just soak something up just by watching. So again, I'm just going to show you body movements. Unfortunately, I'm going to obscure your view in some areas, so I'm going to do all different shots in all different places, because one shot in a different area might show you a little bit more. Again, always support your out-feed piece of wood. You don't want that dropping off and smashing to bits unnecessarily. Again, hitting pencil lines, it's all good. I'll show you another angle. Again, if you end up with that out of square, don't worry. I mean, how expensive is that bit of 4x2 or 3x2, whatever it is? Just keep practicing, keep practicing. That's all it's going to take, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a really expensive plane and sharpening stones and all the rest of it, and then find out you don't like it. And just light, you can see my thumb's up high. So that nail is just rubbing on the plate. It's up away from the teeth, so the thumb is up in the air like that. Imagine that's holding the wood, but that thumb is up in the air, so that's only rubbing the plate. There's no way it can come into contact with the teeth. Once enough of the curve is established, we're fine. and kitchen chairs aren't really the ideal medium. Do one more. This is on the basis, I don't know how much I'll be able to hit the spot, but I was always told that, you know, if you were just going to be cutting off studs or something, anything rough cut, say you're going to get timber out for a project, you're going to make a lovely bit of furniture, if you've got enough skill, you should be like, well, it needs to be that length, and you should within reason need to be able to think, well, okay, that needs to be there. You should have a pretty tidy technique, and hopefully you're not going to be miles out, and especially because it's a rough cut, if you're making a project, it's going to need to be further refined anyway. But you can see there, I'm bang on 90 degrees. I don't know if I can show that very well, but as bang on as you need to be for this kind of stuff. And that way, also very good. And just by repetition, you'll get that. And you imagine this isn't fine dovetailing, but it's a dovetail joint. If you want to get, in my opinion, if you want to get good at those kind of things, start off with some gross movements, you know, wake that body up, get it going. And once you can do those gross movements, then you can come in finer and more precise all the time, more precise. So it's really cheap. That's what I'm using there, £6 or £7. We talked last time, you can pick up a resharpenable one for sort of less than 20 quid in the UK at the making of this video. Or you can spend more and get a really nice one. Doesn't make any difference. I'll do a quick chat on the squares and marking tools in another video, but this is an inexpensive carpenter square. I think it's really useful to have one of these. They're a lot cheaper than a good quality combination square, and certainly when you're doing not exactly rougher work, but you're getting out timber for a project, something like this is great, and you can keep your nice quality square at the bench somewhere secure where it's not likely to get damaged on site. These are, you know, they're a bit more lightweight, but perfectly accurate for what we're doing there. So I hope that's maybe inspired you not to go down the rabbit hole of feeling that you need to spend a bucket load of money on planes and all the rest of it. You think, I want to give it a go. Start simple. Some chairs, something substantial to hold your timber on. If you haven't, you might have to buy something to do that. There's only so much mental creativity I've got in me, but that's what came to hand for me. And I'm sure in a future video I'll do something about making a pair of trestles. But to make those trestles, chicken and egg thing, you've got to know how to cut off squarely and have something to support your timber. Picnic bench outside, the seat on that might do you a good job. You know, you've got a lot of picnic benches that sit 4 or 6 people. You've got, you know, cantilevered seats there that might be good. Just make sure it's safe and robust. Keep a first aid kit clear or nearby and try and have fun. All right, so catch you soon.